Okay. All right. So welcome, August 10th, another AI Mindmeld or OpenOps Mindmeld with the Mattermost team. So what's new? Christopher, Jesus, anything that's any sort of updates on your end in terms of like things we should look at?
Yeah, well, I have something that I want to share. The pull request is already there. I'm creating a new preview mechanism for Python notebooks. Python notebooks, for whoever don't know, is the kind of de facto standard for machine learning notebooks, experimentation, and all that stuff. It is well, it's a pretty amazing software that allows you to evolve that kind of projects, Python projects around machine learning and around data science and all that stuff. So it's a pretty amazing stuff. I've been working on allowing you to preview that directly on Mattermost using if you load a Python notebook file, you get the preview. I'm going to share the video. I have a demo actually. Let me see if I can open it because yeah, here I'm trying to see it here. Okay, no. Let me wait a sec. This one here. Let me share my screen. Is this one, I think. Yes. Okay.
Hello, everybody. I'm working on something new today. This is a different project. It is not strictly related to AI, but have a lot of relationship because now you can upload Python notebooks or Jupyter Notebooks to Mattermost, and you can preview directly there. So I can go, for example, here and click here and see the preview of the Python notebook with the images, with the code blocks, all that stuff. Also, I can go, for example, to this one. I can see LaTeX formulas, all that cool things from notebook. So that's it. I think it's pretty amazing. I hope you like it.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Hey, Susan, is there any way to decrease the volume next time? Like your volume is really good. Oops. Speaking of which, your volume is really good. But the replay, is there any way to make it a little louder? We don't have to figure it out now. We just figure it out next time. But it's really great to see the videos.
Yeah, I don't know what is the problem with the audio. Did you say that there's some problem with the audio, right?
But just the volume can be a little higher when you do the replay. When I watch the Zoom recording afterwards on YouTube, it's like the audio could just be a little bit louder.
Okay. I don't know. Well, we will figure it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Jesus, maybe your YouTube player has the volume turned down. I've seen that happen to mine sometimes, like the actual player, not the OS system volume.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. That makes sense. Hey, so this is excellent. So I'm just going to play it back. So is this can you talk about technically how that was done? Is it a plugin? And we should put this in the YouTube video notes. Like, how do you, there's a great post on the forum around this. We should do that. We should include the notes, the source code.
Yeah. Okay. I started this using a library that was out there that was for using that was Notebook.js. But that library wasn't playing well with React, and the reality is the library is not that big. So I ported all that to TypeScript React system. So now is inside the plugin Mattermost AI, the Mattermost AI plugin. We can build this as a built-in functionality of Mattermost, or we can build this as another plugin, or we can keep it in Mattermost AI plugin. But yeah, the idea is exactly that. The Python notebooks is a JSON file at the end of the day. Is just a JSON. So we parse that JSON. We download that JSON from the server, parse that JSON, and start giving the representation of that JSON in the interface. So basically, I just replicated the behavior of an existing library. because, well, that library was doing things that I didn't like. And my library, well, my implementation is more React friendly and is basically a React application. So that and then the final code is not especially big. So I'm happy with the result. And yeah, that's it. I don't know if there's any questions.
No, I totally love that. So what I love here is that we can link to it and we can show the people, like, one of the big things that Mattermost does is sort of that operational hub that other things can plug into is exactly this, right? It's not just like, oh, here's a webhook and we push some information in. It's like, I'm going to actually render things in a different way, in a custom way. So what we've got here is not only an example of how you can get this, how you get these notebooks open, but what you've got is you've got an implementation that can take, custom content in JSON and render it in a way that you want, and with not a lot of code that works with the plugin. So you've already got an example of this, and that is super powerful.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Excellent. Thank you. Other comments or questions on this piece?
I have a question in that, Python notebooks and these Jupyter notebooks are really common within people that are working on AI and ML projects because they're doing those kinds of things in Python. I'm wondering, Jesus, do you see like a practicality aspect of this within Mattermost and testing using AI by having the notebooks available or being able to use them in any sort of way, like a standardized unit test of like a AI's output or something? I'm just wondering if you're seeing this as a stepping stone to more functionality.
Not really. This is only for allowing you to share the notebook. It is not that
it's not the server like the Jupyter Lab server that would be able to parse the Python, but it can just show you the rendered finished Python file that you could share, or the JSON file. Cool.
Yeah, it's not a replacement for Jupyter or anything like that. When I made this ticket when I was posting those notebooks in the Exchange channel about like answering questions about like D&D and stuff. I was like, wow, we really need a preview of Jupyter.
No, totally. It was super. I remember when you shared that, and there was no way to view that without downloading.
Yeah, exactly.
So I agree.
It's a link to GitHub. Yeah.
Yeah, sharing those are really common data types, so it's good to have that viewable in Mattermost.
Yeah, Jupyter is great, and there's a ton of people that use Jupyter locally. So or even or in Google Colab, that is more or less the same. So there's a lot of people that works that fly solo using notebooks and then share the notebooks. It's not that uncommon to share the notebooks. So being able to preview them, I think is give a lot of value. Some time ago, I was thinking about the possibility of integrating Jupyter notebooks, real Jupyter notebooks inside Mattermost in a way that you are iframing a notebook server, but you need a notebook server, and that is that have a lot.
Right, you need the GPU. It has a lot of requirements in order to have like a productive server like that.
Yeah, exactly. Or well, maybe you can integrate with Google Colab or something like that. We could work on integrations on that kind, and I don't think will be super complicated to have something like a Google Colab that you maintain there and you somehow export and import from there and in a file or whatever. I'm not 100% sure how it will look like, but I would love to have something more integrated of Jupyter notebooks, real Jupyter notebooks integrated in Mattermost, but that requires a Jupyter notebook server or Google Colab or something like that.
Yep. So just I apologize. I apologize for like pulling us back to a little bit. I need some help just for the listeners on this recording and as people this meeting. Can someone give a 101 on Jupyter? So like, let's assume we know sort of like, AI basics, what is Jupyter? What's its value? It is can someone just kind of give that sort of like 101 real quick?
Okay, I can go
Andrew,
ahead.
you're muted.
Oh yeah, I was muted, but I can, Jesus, you can go ahead if you'd like, or I can do it, whatever is best.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great.
Go for
So just like a quick on overview on what Jupyter would be. Jupyter's it's a platform as a service where you can view these specific types of files that are called notebooks that are code blocks, alternating code blocks of like Python code and Markdown, and they're used to demonstrate Python code because Python obviously doesn't run natively in the browser. You need a backend system to render the Python, show you what comes out of it. And Jupyter Notebooks are the collaborative way in which machine learning scientists, AI engineers, folks who work in Python create, share, and build their demos just like how other folks might do in like something like JavaScript. It's just much more easier to share like in a Codepen. So like a TLDR is like Jupyter Notebook is like a Codepen for Python.
Okay, great. Thank you. And okay, excellent. Any other questions from folks as I'm learning about this?
I have a question. So this essentially is bringing Jupyter Notebooks Codepen into Mattermost is kind of what this is solving. Am I understanding that right?
This actually is just like allowing you to see the final rendered file, like the flat JSON file that comes out of the Jupyter Notebook. When you interact with the Jupyter Notebook or a Jupyter server, it's actually a live environment. It's something that's hosted on like a machine with a kernel that's running a Python, compiler in the background. And so there's actually like processing requirements. And this is actually just sharing that final flat file that has what you put into it, the actual markdown, the actual code, and then the rendered Python output.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So I'm learning here, so I'm going to try and confirm my understanding. So it's just kind of like a MATLAB output, right? So I'm running MATLAB. It's got a bunch of equations.
Yeah, it's the same idea.
Yeah.
It's a flat output from what would be like a heavier GPU powered backend. Yeah.
So the use case is, hey, I'm using OpenOps, and we're working on some, in an interactive thing, and there's a good stopping point. I want to let people know where we are, and we'll throw in the Jupyter Notebook and render it kind of like a MATLAB, output log, and be like, hey, this is what we did. See you next Thursday.
Yeah, I think so.
One use case,
like you'd be like an AI scientist, you'd be an engineer working on maybe an AI project, right? In order to do that, you're importing your models in Python. Maybe you have unit tests that you're writing, asking it standard questions. You're doing fine tuning, you're doing changes to your model. And so you can use it as like a unit test to actually quantify and understand the changes you're making to a model. And then you can share that as an output. So maybe folks working on AI or building applications and interacting with things like with LangChain as well, they would be using systems like Python, like Jupyter Notebooks to make sure that their outputs are consistent and that they can share their results. It's used like in an academic setting as well for white papers.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Jesus.
Well, I want to clarify one thing more. We say all the time, or we look like we are confusing Python notebooks, Jupyter notebooks, and all that stuff. The reason for that, and Google Colab. Google Colab is kind of I don't know if it's a fork or something like that of Jupyter Notebooks, but it is a similar environment provided by Google. But Jupyter Notebook and Python Notebooks, it's the same thing, but Python Notebooks is the previous name. Jupyter Notebook is because it's no longer only Python, since years ago. It's no longer only Python, it's Python, Julia, and any other kernel that you install behind. So that's the reason why I'm saying Python notebooks, Jupyter notebooks, but we always mean Jupyter notebooks.
Yep, makes sense. One thing we should, this is so exciting, I think. And I think what I'm thinking about right now is like, how do we get this information out? So I think that the demo on the forums is excellent. And we've got, I want to keep building on our sort of machine that puts this information out in the world. My next thought is, how do we think about changelogs? Like, I feel like almost like every time we get something that's a PR in, like, what's our sort of change logging process?
So I've been doing releases every once in a while, and I write out a changelog. I post that in the AI channel, and then there's the one on GitHub, and then I've been the last one I put on the forum as well. So there exists a changelog. This one isn't in yet. That's why it's not in a changelog yet.
Okay, got it. No, I'm just thinking maybe we should have some sort of like form, and this is just like hacky idea. Maybe we should just change the template for PRs to include like what's the changelog update, and that way whoever's writing it can just like at least draft something, and that way it makes things easier for everybody.
Yeah, so I've just been doing the titles of the things. Don't need anything fancy.
That's
Title
easier
the
then.
PR. Yeah.
Okay.
We are small enough to not need extra checks on that because
Yeah.
we don't make that many comments. So
Yeah, that's actually excellent, because then like if the commits and PRs actually are sort of self-documenting, what I want to do is, yeah, they're self-documenting, but they're very like, if you know, you know. And I'm trying to figure out how to make the changelogs kind of product announcements, because like we've got all these amazing demos. And so maybe it's this, which is as we build the PRs and as we have demos, you know, just I'll leave it to y'all, but like, let's think about how to take all the goodness that we've got and just make it more discoverable in one place. And changelog might be the right place for that. Let me just kind of share. I think this is technically non-confidential, right? Like we're doing these listening tours across Mattermost, and we did one with support and customer reliability engineering the other day. And one of the requests was, hey, as things get developed, right? Like how can we let our own support and, you know, customer reliability engineering team, our own company know about them? Like how do we educate them on what's coming so that they can answer questions and know where to go to? So, you know, the more we can kind of, let's just think a little bit about like, we're really ahead of folks and building some amazing things. How do we leave the breadcrumbs behind us so that they'll be able to absorb it? Like the elastic band of knowledge is stretching, and we just have to think about, you know, low friction ways, low effort ways we can just help them catch up. One of them, for example, is all the stuff we're doing on forums, right? They're not looking for like a ticket or something. At least they can go web searches. I think we're doing a really good job of that already. And, you know, as we just kind of change our defaults to be more open, they can find those breadcrumbs.
There's a couple of things that I want to do on this vein. One, I'm working on a presentation, sort of probably like a technical presentation of like what is an LLM for all of our internal engineers, so we know like what's, you know, distribute that kind of knowledge. Then the other thing is I want to try and commit to more R&D demos. I run that meeting, so I end up like not doing demos of my own stuff, but let's probably start doing that.
Who's got a demo? I've got a demo. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, cool. And so I think that's excellent. I think it's excellent. Let's continue to do that. I'm also thinking about like, you know, like Andrew's thing about notebooks was kind of excellent. And it's almost like we can take, we have a vendor that does video editing, right? And if there's a way we can say like, hey, that was great, and it could like flow into a summary, and, you know, that editor can actually pick up the, like in every, like one of these meetings, if we identify really great like clips to put out in 30 seconds, and we can like annotate that as we speak, and there's an action item to cut out, you know, X to X to go and create that little mini demo or mini piece. These are all like features I think everyone could use. Like, I'm honestly just trying to like build stuff like selfishly, because I think everything we put into OpenOps here will end up in the community server. We can like use it, right? Like I'm about to like meeting summarization is like, oh my God. And you know, being able to take action items using voice is incredible, and being able to clip out things. Right. I'm not saying this is like, you know, I'm saying like in 6 months, it'd be great if one of the action items is generate a clip, you know, about this conversation. And we don't even tell the time codes. Like if the back end can go and identify that clip, the time codes, you know, write a summary for it and almost like produce like a mini video, right? Like those are all 6-12 months out, right? I mean, we're just moving so fast. We're going to knock out a lot of this table stake stuff. So that's my little soapbox and stepping down. Okay. All right. Other sort of questions or thoughts in this meeting? Anything else to show or to ask?
I have a question. Actually, and this came from a prospect thinking about incident response. And hopefully, I don't know, maybe I'm coming in late into the game, but I'm wondering if we have done any testing on using AI to sort of provide us with either summaries, bullet points, or perhaps solutions that have come up as part of our playbook processes for incident response that could apply to future events. So for example, if something starts happening and we get an alert and we know that we need to kick off a playbook, if we can ask AI if this has happened before, or if we have identified any reasons or any solutions to whatever the incident may be.
Yeah, definitely. This has come up before. I haven't done any work on that yet. The best thing you could do to sort of jumpstart that would be to collect these like actual use cases that people are interested in. Because like the hardest part is to figure out like, where it can be helpful. And like at what point in the like instant response process do you want the AI to come in and be like, oh, I think this or something, or is it just at the end when you're trying to write that report? Like that's probably like the one I think about the most is like generating generating some retrospective, because no one likes to write out a retrospective, and if it's partially done for you, that's great.
I hadn't even thought about that, but that's a great idea. AI, please write a retrospective on what we found out, what happened, and how do we make it better?
Yeah.
And related to that too, with something that we've been talking about lately with like ambient AI as well, and doing that within playbooks, there's a lot of ambient tasks and knowledge collection involved with playbooks once they're started, when they're in action, and after they complete. The AI could be like more of a custodian as well, coming up and making sure that information is clear, it's processed after an incident, and that it kind of keeps a clear system of record for people.
And on that same vein, that's how I've kind of perceived our eventual AI with Mattermost as like a custodian of all the information, because one of the use cases that we see come up a lot for customers is like someone makes a post and they start talking in a thread, but in reality, all of that context, there was a thread 3 days earlier in the same channel. So like how like Discord kind of handles that is if you make a forum post, it goes, whoa, this looks just like this. Did you mean to post here? Move it up there. Like it's those little things that I see like the long-term, year and a half down the road, where our AI like finds all those little, not issues, because they're not really a problem, but like those little, you could be a little bit better here. And
They're
like
little
with-
tiny
with, like,
quality of life improvements.
Yeah,
just little
exactly
tiny
what
things.
we
Yeah.
do with Wrangler, for example, like you could passive aggressively move people's posts into the correct thread. Same thing, AI, hey, this looks like the thread, boom, move it up. Like all those little things.
It's something like in a channel, someone says, next time we meet about so-and-so, we should make sure we talk about this. And then when the AI knows that you're having a meeting, it sends you a checklist of the things that you need to talk about with that person, stuff like that.
And even makes the reminder for you. Like,
It even
boom.
makes a reminder, probably schedules the call. Like the custodian aspect of it is something really appealing to me as well. And I agree with you on the long-term value of that for people.
Yeah, because it takes it out of like, I think we're kind of talking a lot about AI engineers and how they can like build AI with Mattermost, which is super cool. But like on the flip side, how can just like, I don't build AI, how could AI benefit me? That's the summarization that you guys have and stuff like that in here. That's cool. And then taking that further and like, how does it benefit all of like what I do every day?
Love it. Love use cases like that. I had it in my big list.
So while we're talking, I was trying to do a really cool demo and I failed. So just going back to Victor's thing about security incidents and security issues, so I've got some problem. I disconnected my GitHub and I reconnected, and I don't know, I'm not able to access.
Yeah, so, okay, I can tell you exactly what's happening here. So you said scan the last 30 GitHub issues. It doesn't know how to scan 30 GitHub issues. It only knows how to scan. Okay, so imagine you told a person to do that. Scan the last 30 GitHub issues. What issues? Where? Right?
Okay.
It doesn't know that the last 30 posts in this channel happen to be GitHub issues, right?
Okay. Okay. So Victor, the thought is a lot of folks do actually security incident response in tickets. So we don't support Jira right now, and but so basically you can actually say, hey, here's what's going on, right? Look through the last, look through this channel of tickets, and can you find anything that's similar? And if you can figure out a type of ticket, actually, this is something we should really think about, is using hashtags. So let's say there's incidents and there's a certain flag inside of like Jira or GitHub or whatever. In our Zapier connector or our native connector, you can actually throw hashtags in the text. and we could potentially like filter those in. So we could actually do like type GitHub issue or something, and for Victor's use case, search through and find if there's anything like security vulnerabilities or incidents that are similar. This is just, I'm going to ante with an idea here.
And Ian, I think this is in my mind when the question was posed to me, very much on the lines of what I was thinking. Ideally, we could be putting together, future state. And I guess the other question, maybe hashtags, maybe the mechanism to pull them together and train AI to look through those hashtags, where to pull the information from, which I think goes back to the comment that Chris made. Anyway, this is very much in line with what I had in mind, what I was thinking.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, so Victor, it's a great question. Let's continue to think about, how can we, demo to prospects sort of like instant response with OpenOps and other use cases. Let's have that for next time. Let's think about it a little bit. Thank you all. Great meeting. See y'all soon.
Thanks, team.